Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over bear flags and bull flags, how to utilize them, how to find extra confluence, and how I trade these. Please remember this is for educational purposes only. Trading comes with a large amount of risk and you solely take on that risk when you decide to trade. Also, if you have not yet, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button so I can keep making these videos for you guys. And as always, we do have a community. It is in the bio or down in the description where we live day trade every single morning for New York session. So now let's dive into these bear and bull flags and kind of how they look. So when we think of a bear flag or a bull flag, you can call these a flag if you want to just keep it simple. You're looking to draw a flag shape with the pull handle. So imagine yourself waving this now in the air. This is your flag, you're holding the handle and you're waving it. We're going to go find this specific pattern now on the charts, and we're going to try to understand how you can use this and what confluences I use. So let's go ahead and start to draw these out. As far as time frames go, these can be found on any time frame. It's going to be heavily dependent on you as the trader, what you see in the market and what you like to trade and what your account can withstand. If you're trading on larger time frames, typically that's a larger range for a stop loss, right? So let's go with the 2-minute first, and then I'm going to give you examples on a 5-minute. These are primarily the two time frames I personally use. So let's go into New York session this morning. How could we have capitalized on this move? I also have the orb on, the opening range breakout for the 15-minute. So let's go ahead and let's look for our flag. We can start to see it here. So if we need to draw out the complete flag, oops, let's delete that. If we need to draw out that complete flag, go ahead and draw the entire flag out so you can see it in your mind, see the vision come to life, and then see your flag pull, right? So with this flag pull and it following trend all the way up and utilizing the HA candles, we can clearly see this significant uptrend, right? And it doesn't break until all the way up here. So we would have gotten in this position right here at the break of, essentially, you could quantify these as trend line breaks. A lot of people get confused with trend lines, so we're just going to stay with bear flags, bull flags. And then this was over $1 move on silver. This is a very significant move for silver. Everybody's been trading silver with the volatility that's come into place with silver. And if you're trading one full-size contract, a $1 move on silver is $5,000, right? So you can do a lot of damage, good and bad, on both sides. So there's one example. And sometimes you'll get extra confluence with having the orb on, not so much with silver, but we'll go look at a few different markets and we'll look at some examples of how the ORB can be an extra confluence. Okay, so now we could say that this is our next flag, and where does our pull go, right? Here. And we see everything kind of start to break down. Obviously, we had one more up candle, so would this have knocked you out if you were in drawdown potentially? Maybe, depending on where you entered the trade. So these don't have to be 100% precise every single time. You just have to do your due diligence and make sure wherever you entered this trade, would that stop you out? A 50-cent move, $2,500, right? Understanding how silver moves and if you're trading full size and not micro. But again, another over dollar move. So very good morning on silver and just utilizing flags. You're only utilizing the flags. Can you use these in other sessions? Our London session? Yeah. Let's draw another flag just so we can see this here. And then let's drag our little handle that we're going to be waving it from. And what do we see? Finally breaks up here. We would have went long at the break and we got a 50-cent move. That is $2,500 with one full-size contract. But again, if you're trading minis or micros, that's heavily dependent on you. So again, could we trade this? Could we make this our flag? Yep, we see our flag, and we have a handle that we can start to put with trend, and we have this large, obviously, trend continuation. But let's go back to another New York session and let's make sense of this. So maybe you're somebody who doesn't want to trade the opening candle. So remember, when you're looking at my chart, I'm Pacific Standard Time. So anytime you see me hover, you'll see 6:30 a.m. So we see this nice rally down at open, but maybe you're just somebody who doesn't want to trade that. What do you do in this instance? You, again, just take your little tools and you make a new flag, right? And we can see that it follows the trend beautifully. So what it quantifies this as a flag? How do we make sense of this, or how do we get out of our own way when drawing these? Because sometimes they get confusing for people and they're looking for precision and not just trusting that this is their flag. I always say 2 to 3 touch points on one side of this. So we can see we have multiple touches all the way up on this. And then extra confluence here, I said not always is it going to be the ORB strat like getting pushed out, but on this particular day it did work. And it retested the orb not once but twice and then still had continuation. So could you have held this and went long all the way to purple? And if you guys haven't seen the orb strat video, it is on my profile. You guys can go back and watch it. But this is over a $1.50 move, so around a $7,000 move, one full-size contract. Let's go into another New York session and kind of see if we can see a flag. So this is a good indication of how a flag can be minimal. There's 1, 2, 3 touches, and then we see the break before market even open. So before market open, we have that big push, and boom, there's another dollar move. And again, what do we have for extra confluence? We have this orb here, and we want to see if it holds, 1, and 2, that it breaks above, and it did both of those things. And it almost got to purple, so almost came up here to purple. Nice move. So now let's go look at some other markets. We're gonna look at gold and see how we can make sense of gold using those same key patterns, drawing out our flag, and then also using our handle. There's our handle, and we have this nice run up, and then what do we see immediately after the flag breaking? A significant move on gold. So again, you don't want to trade those first 15 minutes of market open. Maybe you want to trade maybe not the first half hour of market open. Maybe it's too volatile for you and you wait, and then now you have something like this happen. Boom. And if we would have went short here, let's just measure this out here, depending on where you get in, right? We did have some wicks come up, so understanding what you're trading and how you're trading it, whether you're trading full size or you're trading micros. And then gold moves at full size $100 per point that it moves, so that is almost a $5,000 move right there on gold. Obviously it kept going, so $6,000 depending again on risk management. What other confluences do we have here? We do have the orb. It broke out of it and then it just continued to push all the way down. We hit purple, we hit blue. Let's go look at another day example for gold using the same idea of just using a flag. That's all you're doing, is using the flag. Here's our flag, and then our handle to go with structure. Again, maybe you don't want to trade open. You have another flag present itself here. What else do we see here? A retest of that orb, right? We have our handle where the trend started to break, and we have the push up. So could you have entered early and front run this? potentially, right? Because you're using extra confluences. But if you wanted to safeguard and make sure, you could say, okay, well, I want to see if we hit purple. If we have a body through purple, I'm comfortable holding until we get to blue. We didn't quite get to blue, so around a 20-point move or so, depending again where you got in on that move. So let's look at another example. So again, these can be short flags. They don't have to be like 15 candles. It needs to be at least 2 to 3 candles and then a push. It's going to give us those touches that we need. And then where that trend broke, we're going to put our handle, and there it is. Okay, now let's go look at NQ and let's see if we can see that same thing. The more you watch this, the more you start to see this visually on your charts. Maybe you go and back test this strategy and see if this is something that works for you. You can start to see this, right? Where the trend started to break, red at an open, a nice push up. And then what did we see here? That same thing. Another flag presents itself, and what do we have? The push up, right? And extra confluences. How is this an extra confluence? Because we have our orb, it's broken over the orb, and it goes right directly into purple. Did we get to blue today? Not yet. It's still, 7:45 in the morning right now. So could we eventually get to blue? It's definitely a possibility. So let's look now at another day and see if we can make sense of that. There are other confluences that you can tie into this, and we'll go over that here in a second, like what other things you could be looking for. But also, you don't want to confuse yourself too much. Trading is very simple, but a lot of people overcomplicate it because of the emotions that come with trading. So we have this flag. You could quantify this as a very large flag, or again, right, because we don't know what's happening in New York session. Backtesting is always hindsight, because it's like, oh yes, it seems so simple, but you can get on the charts and you're seeing this, and so you could have potentially marked this flag. That could have been your flag. Again, it's how you view the market, how you view price action, and what you're looking for. And if you're somebody who is trend continuation, we can clearly see we're in a downtrend, right? We've broken structure here, made a new low, made another new low. So what is the expectation if you like to follow trend? Making another new low. Is it a short-lived low? Yeah. Is it still a significant move for NQ? Yes. Around 70 points. Okay. So now, on the other hand of that, if we were to have kept even just that larger trend line that we had drawn to create that big flag, because you can create very large flags, you can use this in conjunction with very high time frames to get very large moves, of course. So we can easily start to see these breakdowns. You can see these play even just looking at this chart now, knowing what you know from watching the video from the beginning. You can see that this is a very large trend, right? Again, could you have come in here and made this your trend potentially? Yes, and then taken the short and then it bought? Yes. What do we have for extra confluence here? We have our orb, and it pumps right through it. So this was the position this morning for 100 points, and then I was done trading. So then long position would have come in, and you could have taken the long from here and understood that we had orb here for extra confluence to stay in the trade. As far as price targets go, though, I will always look for price targets. And if you go watch some of the earlier videos in my profile, you'll see that I mark out areas of interest. Areas where price has come multiple times across the board. Support and resistance, essentially, or highs and lows. I will come mark these out, and I will look across the board, and I will see, okay, price has come here multiple times, had a reaction here, and I'm looking for price to clear these with bodies. meaning that they fly through these and continue to pump. So we can see now, just with our flag, using our orb as well, our chart does get messy really quick. Here's our orb. Here's a target 1. We blew right through it. We are already past level blue for the orb, and then we have target 2. We do get a large wick, but then what do we see price do? Push through target 2, 3, and hit 4. And that was all just from marking where price has previously been on a 2-minute chart. So now let's go back to gold and let's go to a higher time frame. Like I said, I usually use the 2-minute and the 5-minute, but let's go to a 15-minute. And let's see how this could work for somebody who isn't technically a scalper, right? And I might go into this a little bit deeper because I think there's a lot of great opportunity on gold with higher time frames just because of the way metals move. So I might go ahead and make a video more in depth. So make sure you guys are subbed to the channel so you know when it's available and hit the bell icon. So even on a 15-minute, and knowing what we know now, you can see these flags present themselves, right? And again, with using something like an Asian session, where are we looking for this to go? When would we know that potentially there's a reversal? How do you figure that out, right? And it's looking left, always looking left. We could say that we have this area, right? It was resistance. And what is resistance? The candles are resisting going higher, resisting going higher. Now what is this? Support, right? It's supporting the candles moving higher. Okay, so target 1. And then what is down here? Another level of support slash resistance. And what do we have price do? Come right into it, right? So could we have taken the short position, and this would technically be a swing trade. Why is it a swing trade? Because you're not holding it for, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And an easy way to figure out, like, okay, if you're opening yourself up to being on a 15-minute chart, is to come in here and grab your measuring tool, and you come in here and you measure this out. These bars, every bar is 15 minutes, right? We're on larger time frames, so we have to understand what's the reality of trading something like this. Let's go to this bar here. That would have taken you an hour and 45 minutes of sitting in this trade to be able to hit those targets, right? So I just wanted to point that out and let you guys see that there is opportunity on a larger time frame, larger scale. It just requires a whole different beast. I am primarily a scalper out of New York session. That's what I do every single day. And I've had great success doing so. But we can see that we blew through that old price area and we came down to where? Where would that next target be and why? We have this low here. Okay, where's the low after that? We can see across the board, this makes sense. Could we mark this? Yeah, we could. It's a level. If we look across right here, price has had reactions in this level. We tap into it. So we could say we have a target 1, a target 2, and a target 3. So we could say short position. And again, this is Asian session. And to our target 3 is a 52-point move. Again, full understanding of what you're doing and what the reality of this potentially looks like is that it is, again, another hour and 45-minute trade. Could you have held longer and had your stop loss sitting somewhere above these levels and held into these levels down here? Sure. How do we figure out, again, where that is? Marking levels, right? We might have to zoom out a little ways to kind of see where these levels are. So we're going to come in here and we're going to look for these levels. Everywhere price has had that reaction. We're going to come here and here. Okay, let's go back over. Here's our Asian session. There was that initial trade, right, that we were talking about. I know it gets confusing. So the initial little flag, and then remember I said your stop sitting above here maybe somewhere, and then you were holding. Well, look what it did. It almost got all the way down here, but again, being a swing trader, potentially could you hold through Asian, through London, and into New York to kind of finally hit that last target? Yeah, if that's something you do, right? So we're getting a little off subject here, but I just wanted to point that out. I will go into a full video about this, and maybe larger time frames, even more so than the 15-minute. But again, these are found on any time frame. These are found on any market. You can see these present themselves just about everywhere. Individual names. Can you trade individual names with the same psychology and the same strategy? Let's go look. So a lot of people like to trade, let's just say Tesla, right? Here's Tesla. We're on a 15-minute. Remember that when you're trading individual names, understanding that these have the real time, our regular trading hours, you need to go, if you want to see the London and Asian session, which it doesn't really matter, but if you just need that extra area to be able to see where you're at in the market, you can turn them on. So it's going to show like the pre-market and then the initial move. So do we see flags here? We're on a 15-minute. Can we go down to a 5? Yes. So just looking at this now, again, and training your eyes to be able to see this, do we see flags? Yes. How do we capitalize on these? The same exact way, right? That same way. Clean structure to the bottom side, okay? Are some days not going to be as crisp and clean? Sure, right? That's the reality of trading. Some days are just not going to be a great day. Still a pretty good move, and then it would just chopped around, and then we have orb, and it breaks out of orb. So on individual stock names, does it work? Yes. What do we see here? Push up, flag, maybe don't want to trade open, but then we see this. Okay, maybe we're not convinced yet. What do we see here? Another flag, and then what happens? Our handle, right? And it pushes all the way down. Do you look for the same style of target? Yeah, I do, right? And again, this is not financial advice. This is just what trading over the last 6 years has taught me. So yes, you can see these present themselves. So if you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comments, but that's going to be it for the bear flag, bull flag. And if you want to join us live every single morning for day trading, it is in the bio.